Happy World PR Day to everyone. Very excited to be here and have this conversation with the global thought leaders shaping the industry of today. As we all know, AI is transforming how we communicate and how we live, but let's not forget that trust is still our most valuable currency. And as PR pros, it is our job, duty, and responsibility to ensure that we communicate in an ethical way that still leads change without losing our humanity. So I'm really excited to really just jump in here. So I'm going to throw my first question at you, Fatu.
Mhm.
The PR Girl Manifesto advocates for inclusive and ethical storytelling. As AI tools evolve and become more prominent, how can we ensure they reflect the diverse voices and lived experience your platforms fight for?
No, it's a great question, right? I think the first thing that we have to ask is always who's building the tech, because when we talk about inclusive storytelling, it doesn't really start at the output, right? It starts at infrastructure. And so if the teams training AI don't reflect the global world we live in, then the narratives that these tools produce won't either. And so at PR Girl Manifesto, we're constantly talking about voice, right? Whose story gets told, how do they get told, and who gets to tell them. And I think when it comes to AI, communicators like PR and compros, we have to be a part of that process, right? I think too often we are treating AI like it's someone else's department or something for someone else to figure out. But the reality is, if we're not using the tech, then we're not helping to shape it. And I think that there's a lot of hesitation still in our industry. As much as we see, like, panels and workshops and conversations about AI, there is still hesitation. But the reality is, it's not really going anywhere for the foreseeable future. And so, if we really want to get these tools to reflect, I think, the nuance and lived experience, equity, and trust, we need to be able to engage them early and very intentionally. One platform I've been really inspired by is Jody AI. It's an inclusive generative AI that's built specifically for communicators. In their founding, they actually launched a partnership with Diversity Action Alliance. And what's different about Jody is that they are trained on reputable D&I research, and industry experts have contributed to it. So it's being used to support inclusive communication. And I think tools like that really show us just like what's possible when equity and trust isn't an afterthought, and it's something that it's baked in from the beginning. And I think that's the shift that we need to make as communicators if we're serious about inclusive storytelling.
Definitely a huge fan of Jody AI as well, and the founder Doug Melville. He's like an AI genius and GOAT. So I'm definitely glad you brought that out. I'm gonna hop into Ross because I know you're all about AI ethics, and I want to hear your perspective with your dual lens as both a PR strategist and educator. How should we as PR professionals be upskilled to balance AI tools with ethical reputation management?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Tiana. And just like to reinforce what Fatu said about, we need to be part of the conversation. And I think that is really important. I know there's a lot of comms practitioners there. A lot of my students are worried about the future because of AI. They see that it's going to devalue our profession. I actually think it's quite the opposite. I think comms practitioners within organizations are really the key to understanding how organizations can adapt their use of AI to what their stakeholders expect and understand their organizations to do. So, in my conversations with lots of organizations, it's funny when I ask them about AI and their policies and their guidelines for staff. I ask people about how their stakeholders expect them to use the technology. And most that I've spoken to haven't bothered to ask their stakeholders. So I think asking your stakeholders both internally and externally about your use of AI, where they expect it to be able to help you be able to provide better services to your stakeholders, to your customers. So I think there are great uses that organisations can implement. But I think also understanding the risks. We've talked about inclusivity, absolutely one of the issues. Privacy, data security, even some of the ethical issues around job losses. I know there have been some CEOs out that have sent out all staff emails that have got a lot of publicity, and I just shake my head at those. So I think I'm going to circle back to the point that I think comms people are the natural people within organizations to have those conversations across the entire organization and with a range of stakeholders to start these conversations about how we ethically use AI and the future of our use of the technology.
I completely agree, Ross. Every time I see those emails, those mass emails from these CEOs, I cringe. I literally cringe because it is an irresponsible use of a tool that, I believe was sent to really make our lives more efficient, easier, and it holds so much power. Is Marian here yet? If not, I'll jump back to you for two, just kind of piggybacking off of what Ross said about, a lot of people, especially his students, have an uncertainty and different fears. You have access to thousands of PR professionals globally. What are some of the recurring fears or misconceptions around AI that you encounter the most? And as comms professionals, what advice would you give to help people transform that fear into strategic readiness?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest, fears and comments we consistently get is if AI, will it replace me? Will it replace my job? I think especially from folks who have really built their careers on creativity, right? And the ability to tell stories with heart. And I think it's a valid fear, right? AI feels, I think it is the direction we're going, but to many people, it feels big and fast and it's hard to keep up with. Every day there's a new thing. Now we're talking about GEO, right? And what that means for PR. So every day it's a new thing. But I think it's important to remind folks that there's a lot that AI can do, but to your point, it can't generate trust, right? It doesn't have lived experience. It can't always read the room or understand, I think, the emotional landscape in which we exist in. And that's where our value lives, right? The ability to be human, to connect, and not just create. But I do think it's important that we acknowledge that AI is changing the media landscape. And when the media shifts, as a result, our industry shifts with it. And so I think some of the concern is real, right? But I think for PR professionals and for communications professionals worldwide, we need to engage with it, right? I think the mindset shift is from moving from a fear of replacement to just being ready for collaboration. It's a tool. It's not necessarily a threat. And like any tool, it works as well as the person using it. And so I think my advice would be, start now, right? Like learn where it helps, where it falls short, maybe in your own work. It's not something that we have to master overnight, but we do have to be curious about it. Because the more fluency we have when it comes to working with AI and AI tools, I think the more power we have in shaping what the next chapter looks like for AI in comms.
Me personally, I completely, and when I'm going to say for about 2 years now, I've started learning AI, but at first I was completely intimidated because, the whole narrative was that AI is going to take your job. But what
Yeah.
I've learned and what I'm telling people is AI is not going to take your job. Someone who fully understands and is AI literate, they may take your job. So it will behoove you to really learn AI. But just to kind of, again, piggyback off what you said about industry shifting, I want to take it back to Ross because he's, studied and taught a lot in crisis communications for decades. And Ross, I want to know, how does AI reshape our approach to issues in crisis management, especially in this climate? And what risk does it introduce to brand management?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. And quite honestly, I think the way it's evolving and the way stakeholders are starting to use it, I'm not sure anyone actually has the answers at the moment. It is certainly evolving. And look, I'm surprised more activists and bad actors haven't been using AI much more effectively. I can see a future where they're going to do that and they're going to start causing real problems to organizations. So I think, I think the message for us as comms people is need to be preparing right now. We need to be preparing ourselves. As Fatou just said, start using the tools, understanding how we can lean into this new technology and use it better to give us a much better opportunity to do what we do faster, with more insights, more equitably, more ethically, and more cost effectively. But also thinking about scenario planning, crisis and issues management, crisis drills. If anyone hasn't thought about or done a crisis drill for their organization or their client, I really encourage you to start doing those sorts of things. Think about what's coming, what it means if somebody is doing a deep fake of your leadership team or your CEO. What if they're starting to target your stakeholders with misinformation? How are you going to deal with all of these sorts of issues? Comms people, I've got a lot of confidence in you. We deal with these issues on a day-to-day basis. We're good at change. We're good at predicting the future. We're really adaptable. So comms people, I think we are the natural leaders in the AI space. We talk with stakeholders. When it hits the fan, who do the leadership team look to? It's comms people all the time, for good reason, because we are focused on what our businesses and what our organizations need to do to ethically respond to stakeholders in a whole range of areas. So yeah, look, I mean, it's difficult. I know with AI, it's evolving. We've got to do our day job. We've got to start thinking about a whole range of new issues. We've got to use new tools for our tactics. But starting place, I think, start to have those conversations. Once you do that, then start thinking about a process of bringing in policies and procedures within your organization. But by just doing that, and I've mentioned in the chat that I've started a podcast, I was astounded that when I went to search that to find podcast policies on AI use, no one has one. Not that I'm aware of, not my search anyway. So I've started doing one, and it started to raise with my co-host and I a whole range of issues that we need to be transparent about as well. So thinking systematically through through the issues, I think is really, really important. And comms people, we should have the confidence to have these conversations and engage our stakeholders and our senior managers. Go out and train your organizations and your teams and people within your organizations, because it's a great way to start these conversations.
Agreed on so many points. I wanted you to reiterate something. You are encouraging people to do a crisis trial run. And what verbiage did you use exactly? Because I want everyone to walk away with that, because it's very important.
Yeah, look, there are a number of platforms out there. I work with The Drill, which is a crisis management simulation program, but there are others out there. The Drill is great. Happy to talk to anyone about that. I talk to a lot of teams, and they say, oh yeah, we've done that. We've just sat around the table and we've discussed what we're going to do. Look, that is not going to be enough. You need to integrate a whole range of people throughout your organization on big crisis drills. Can be massive. In some of the big organizations I've done, they involve hundreds of people, and then they cost millions of dollars. But when the stakes are so high, knowing where the links are and knowing how to deal with issues is so important. And just quickly, I remember back to my early stages of my career when I worked for a big resource company, and I was a bit naive, and I was tasked with finding, small aircraft charters that could fly our executives from Melbourne, Australia, anywhere in the world at the drop of a hat. And we wanted to have a list of all of those. And I remember thinking at the time, this will never be used. And then about 2 years later, on a Sunday evening, one of our ships ran aground. We knew who to call. We got our executives there immediately, made a huge difference. So that sort of example, what are the AI examples of that are going to save our organizations a lot of heartache when we have these problems with AI?
Completely agree. Now, I want to take it to Marian, who's known for merging commercial discipline with creative risk-taking. In a media world now influenced by algorithms, how can AI enhance rather than dilute the delicate balance for brands seeking to build meaningful connections?
Okay, so like I always say, AI in itself is tech, is a tool, it's an enhancer. So I tell people, just to give like simple analogies, right? My computer is a tool, right? So it's what I put in there that comes out. So you see a lot of people, I have a lot of Gen Zs in my team, and most times I had to train them on how to use AI. So AI itself is a tool, and the human itself is the psychology behind the success of the output of that tool called AI, right? It is what you put in, you bring out, which is garbage in and garbage out. So for me, the world is fast paced. And AI is what we need. It's very fast paced. Timelines are very tight. People want to get results ASAP. So what we do is to ensure that we build what we want for the outcome that we expect, right? So from a commercial point of view, we have a couple of tools that we use to help drive productivity, to help drive the sort of outcomes that we feel, that we believe would help us, move forward in terms of what we do. So we have a couple of tools that we use, and we also ensure that we have the right people to drive those tools, right? So data is a critical part of what we do. Gone are the days where you make things happen and things are scattered. Analysis is not, insights are not properly, mined. So for us, financial AI tools are very important in what we do. AI tools that we build ourselves based on the data that we mop up from, especially the digital campaigns that we run from an influencer marketing point of view. We're very key. We use multiple data sources, but overall, what drives the sort of outcome that we require, the sort of outcomes that will give us satisfaction in what we do, is propelled by human psychology. So it's the brain behind the outcomes that the tools generate for us, basically.
Awesome. I think you answered my next question, Marian, but I'll say it just in case.
Oh my goodness.
This is good. You're thinking with the AI brain. What are 3 practical, actionable ways that we as PR and comm professionals in general can embed trust? Because it's all about trust when integrating AI into our media planning, content creation, measurement, and our complete comm strategy.
So I'll start from the process, right? So the process for us is, first of all, insights research, right? AI would not help you do that. AI would only aid you, right? And when it comes to planning, you need to have a lot of on-ground knowledge. You need to understand what you're doing. AI will not help you do that. Your 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 brains, whatever you do, would help you. So I remember when I used to work on P&G, the global president on media, Alan Suarez, I think he's retired now, would say to us, why do you keep saying this data set? Your data says, so I will use the landscape in Nigeria. I don't know if you're familiar. So the data, for instance, our local data, which is now upgraded 10 years ago, will tell you a radio station, it's a grassroots radio station created by government. It's called Tiwa Tiwa. Yeah. So this grassroots station, he tells you, so if you are running your data and this grassroots station that is supposed to be, that is in local language, obviously for the bottom of the pyramid, comes up for a Rolex ad, would you use it? So like I tell people, data is there, technology is there, AI is there. It's meant to be used, not the other way around. So it doesn't use us. We should use them for the sort of outcomes that we want, right? So your question again says the steps. So the steps are very clear, right? Understand what you're doing with human brain. Ask the right questions to the tool, right? That gives you, of course, the tool already has a lot of data that helps you forecast. Use the right tools, right? Use the tools to get out what you want. Then, based on what the data that the tool, the AI tool gives you, then use insights, which then brings us back to human psychology for the outcomes that you want in storytelling, in PR, whatever. So sometimes I see my team, I tell them do stuff, and when they send it to me, I'm like, go back and let me feel humanity in this. This is AI, this is not humanity. Do not use AI. Do not allow AI use you. Use AI and use technology appropriately.
Wonderful, wonderful. So now we're going to jump into a really quick and fun, what are we calling this? A rapid quick fire question round. So I'll lead with a question. I'll quickly answer. And then Ross, Marian, and Fatou, you guys can just jump in however you see fit. All right. So first one is the most significant mindset shift today's professional needs to make when considering AI adoption is, for me, stop fearing replacement and start focusing on integration and elevation.
For me, it's not just a tool; it's a reflection of your inputs, and so your values still lead.
For me, I like to see AI in terms of the work that I do as a catapult of an aircraft carrier. I think using AI gets me flying really quickly. And then once you're off the carrier, then it's back to my skills. So it really lifts up my performance, gets me flying quickly.
Okay, I'll hop into the next one. So, if you can use AI instantly to solve one PR challenge today, what would it be? For me, it's making sure that deep fakes, even though AI create deep fakes, no longer exist.
Well, I'll jump in first for this one, and I think it's got the ability to do this, and that's I think lift the standing of professional communicators within organisations. I think being able to advise organisations on the ethical and appropriate use of this new technology and understanding how stakeholders expect us to do that, I think AI gives us the power to do that.
For me, it'd be fixing bias in media coverage. So especially when it comes to like race, gender, and geography.
For me, it will be my initial research period, ask some questions on AI, basically, I think, and just try to give structure.
Next question is one piece of career advice that never gets old. My mentor told me that relationships move faster than resumes. And I think we can apply it here because AI, all of the amazing things it can do, it cannot establish relationships. That's all on you.
I'll lead with one then. I think I love dreams don't work unless you do.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a real good one.
So
My-
I would join you. Like I tell a lot of my younger colleagues, try to build the right relationships, like you have said, networking, and never expect perfection because we are all not perfect. Try to build the right relationships and know when to balance human and AI input in all you do.
Mine is not, to no surprise at all, about relationships. The relationships you build matter more than the titles you chase.
I think we all agree on that one. Next one. One communicator, past or present, you think every PR pro should study. And though she's not a publicist, I'm going to say Beyonce because the silence is always strategic and the work is always strategic and she never misses the mark.
Yes, retweet. For me, I'll jump in. Ida B. Wells. We talk a lot about like the role of the communicator and how you can use storytelling. And so Ida B. Wells in I'd say like American and Black American history use storytelling as a a tool for truth and justice. And I think that when our job is done right, it's a great example of it.
So mine will be don't follow the myth that says no, as a woman, you always have to be quiet. Tell your stories. No one will tell it for you. Tell your stories. No one will tell your story. If you don't tell your story how you want it, people will structure your story and tell it how you don't want it.
I'm going to go off script a little bit here on this one and not point to somebody. I'm not a big fan of just pointing to one individual, but I would say be aware of fake prophets.
That's deep, Ross.
Mm.
All right, and this next one is just a one-word response. Coffee, tea, or chaos before a big presentation? Iced vanilla latte, oat milk for me.
Coffee for me, just black coffee.
Nice strong Vietnamese coffee with condensed milk. If anyone hasn't tried it, do yourself a favor.
Tea with honey, especially today.
All right, guys, one more question. Complete the sentence. AI will never replace PR people because people still trust people, not algorithms.
Yeah, I'd say because PR is rooted in human trust and trust isn't programmable.
And I would say that because AI can never have empathy, it can fake empathy, but only humans can be empathetic.
PR is not maths. It doesn't have a formula. So AI cannot replace what doesn't have a formula.
I think that's a wrap on our questions. But I think the conclusion here is that the human touch is still needed to create trust. And just to piggyback off of what Ross said, is that as communicators, we are the perfect people to be understanding this tool, leveraging this tool as we, create the narrative and we have direct relationships with the media, the stakeholders, and all at hand. Thank you so much for your time, your input, and your energy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.